And without any further delay, please welcome Prime Minister Albanese.
Well, thanks very much, Kieran, and I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you to Sam and Paul for putting on today on behalf of the Herald, Sun and the Victorian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. To my friend Jacinda Allen, the Premier of Victoria, great to be back in your great state. I have been here on more than 50 occasions now since my election as Prime Minister, and I'm determined to be Prime Minister for the whole nation, and that is important to ministers who are here, Catherine King and Minister O'Neill, two important jobs, infrastructure and housing, that we'll be talking about today, to the Lord Mayor, the Opposition Leader, other Members of Parliament who are here, one and all. A bit of a shout-out too to the Sings. I joined Sam in doing that. After this afternoon, this is the first of my speeches of today. After this, I will be talking at Deakin University with the launch of the Australia-India Roadmap. It says a lot about the changing nature of our economic relationships, that the relationship with India that will grow very soon to be the third largest economy in the world. One of the great advantages that we have in Australia of being located where we are, in the fastest growing region of the world in human history, is our human-to-human relationships, is our diaspora here. And our assets in this country, we have the best solar assets in the world. We have all the minerals under the earth that will power the global economy this century. But our best asset is our people, and our multiculturalism is very much a part of that, and Victoria, of course, is very central to that agenda, which is about seizing the opportunities which are there. And my government is very much focused on building Australia's future, and Victoria is central to this in every way. This state represents over 20% of Australia's economy, more than a quarter of Australia's value-added manufacturing, more than 700,000 small businesses, and in so many fields, from medical research, where this is the centre of medical research in the entire Southern Hemisphere, not just here in Australia, to renewable energy technology. Victoria is a global leader, not just a national one. Victorian businesses, universities, TAFEs, research centres, cultural and sporting institutions are ambassadors for Australia. You build and strengthen our connections to the region and to the world. And later today, I'll be at Deakin University, which has a campus that I launched whilst in Gujarat just, I think last year, 2 years ago. Days tend to blur into each other with the job that I have. But on my first of two visits as Prime Minister to India. This is important, and Victoria is front and centre in seizing the opportunities that are there in the world. Of course, I recognise the state is facing challenges too. The world has thrown a lot at Australia in recent years, and Victorians have endured more than their fair share. Far and away the toughest economic test that all of us has faced is global inflation. Inflation puts pressure on the cost of living and the cost of doing business. It affects the input costs for your business as well as the buying power of your customers. The tail end of the COVID pandemic, combined with the international energy crisis caused by Russia's illegal and immoral invasion of Ukraine, led to average inflation among advanced economies reaching its highest level since the 1980s. And Australia, of course, wasn't immune from any of these pressures. In fact, we were more exposed than we should have been because of the inaction and neglect from our predecessors as a government. Households were already under pressure when inflation and interest rates started rising because wages had been kept deliberately low for years. People's power bills were already higher than they should have been because years of a civil war on climate change and energy within the Liberal and National parties had put us a decade behind the world on renewables. Australia's place in the global supply chain was already vulnerable because our skills and manufacturing sector had been hollowed out. And even before the pandemic, our health system had already been pushed to breaking point by cuts to hospitals, the $50 billion that was ripped out of the health system in 2014, and by the freezing of Medicare rebates. From our first day in office, we've been working to clear away this mess, to rebuild the long drivers of growth and productivity whilst tackling the immediate challenge of inflation. At the outset, we made a deliberate choice to bring down inflation without giving up on growth, sacrificing people's jobs or cutting their wages. This is why Australia's economy has continued to grow while other nations have gone backwards. Employment here has been strong. Important to say that jobs growth in Australia has been faster than all of the G7 economies, enough to more than fill the great MCG more than 11 times. Inflation here peaked lower and later. When we came to government, interest rates were going up, inflation had a 6 in front of it, and both were rising. Real wages had fallen 5 quarters in a row. Now, inflation has a 2 in front of it, a headline rate of 2.4. Annual real wages have grown 5 quarters in a row. We've turned a $78 billion deficit that we inherited into a $22 billion surplus and then followed that up with another surplus the year after of $15 billion. The first time we've had consecutive surpluses in more than 2 decades. That 1.15 million jobs that have been created include more than 320,000 right here in Victoria. And last Tuesday, of course, the hard work of Australians saw the first interest rate cut since 2020. Important relief for households and for small business. And this is the progress that we've made together. Inflation down, wages up, tax cuts delivered, unemployment low, debt down, interest rates falling. And at the same time, as we're dealing with those immediate issues, we're investing in the future and we're building for it.